everybody at Gartner, all the analysts that are here, all the analysts that are not here, and Gartner management, thank you for coming. What the three of us will try to do is give you a little bit of an overview as to what we covered in the opening keynote, and therefore start to be a little bit specific on what we think will happen here in Brazil, which is certainly some of the things that both Donald and Cassio will cover. We live in an interesting time right now. We have this confluence, this integration, it's almost like a perfect storm of trends that are happening at the same time that is changing the way the IT industry is structured, but also how technology impacts business overall. We believe that there are, as we talked about early this morning, 4 forces that will impact the market in combination. It's cloud, it's social, it's mobile, and then information, or what right now gets called big data. They each linearly impact the IT market and create business opportunity. But it is the integration of the 4 that is creating what we call the nexus. And this nexus has a series of ramifications going forward. And I'll cover those because I think they're important. You can read the details of each of the different forces in the press release that's there. And obviously we can take additional questions. But what I would really like to focus on is the ramifications. As a ramification number 1, we believe that the nexus changes the way business is done. It essentially can create new markets, or it can create different levels of competition in established markets. As we said, we believe that this can change the financial services industry because it changes the way we transport money. Because the fundamental of the financial services industry is how you transport money between banks, from banks to businesses, and from banks and businesses to consumers. That is a fundamental part of the banking system and is, for most banks, called SWIFT. The way of transporting money changes because you have other mechanisms of transporting money. People can use peer networks to transport money between one mobile phone to another mobile phone, and it doesn't have to touch the established systems. You can also create new avenues of creating money because you can create networks of people that essentially trade between them. And so this is a definition of change of business. It's happening in retail, it's happening in media, it is happening in the way that manufacturing companies create products. Because at some stage we have to ask ourselves, when is a car a mechanism of transport or a computer on wheels? And so this is the change. This leads to the second impact, which is that we change the way we view spending on technology. Today we've been able to look at technology very well defined as being hardware, software, telecommunications, and services, which are the 4 main pillars of the IT market. That IT market in Brazil will grow very well over the course of the next 12 months. Next year, we believe it will be $134 billion US as a size of market here in Brazil. Each of the segments are in that market growing very well. However, there is an increased amount of spending on technology that is not captured in those 4 pillars, because the semiconductors and software that go into a car doesn't fit in the traditional 4 pillars. The software that goes into, and the chip that goes into a Nike shoe is not counted there. And so we believe, therefore, that what we had in the past is about 20% of spending in information technology was outside of the IT organization. That is now shifting so that more and more money gets spent on technology outside of the traditional IT organization, and that towards the end of this decade, many large Brazilian companies will have at least 90% of their technology spending that will be outside of traditional IT. This changes the market, therefore introduces the need for businesses to have somebody who is responsible for this. There are two scenarios. The scenario that we proposed, which is that you have what we call a chief digital officer, somebody that doesn't work in IT, but works in the business, responsible for the digital strategy. The second alternative is that this is something that IT takes on, but that requires the CIO and the IT organization to drastically change, while of course they're adapting to managing the infrastructure that they have today. So the Chief Digital Officer is what we believe is a likely avenue for managing all this spend of technology that happens outside of the IT organization. One important aspect of this is that as we start to look at using information or data differently in this new economy, we need new skills to manage that. Skills such as traditional data management skills, but also analytic skills, ability to integrate what a business is doing with what is possible with technology. This, in our view, creates a series of new jobs, net new jobs, that we believe on a global scale between now and 2015 will be 4.4 million jobs. Each of those jobs create the demand for another 3 jobs. So in essence, the world will see at least over 10 million jobs created as a result of big data. This is just the start, because remember, this is until 2015. We believe it simply accelerates a new layer in the economy where all businesses create additional revenue by using the information that they have. So this is the information layer of the economy. Essentially, we have had the agricultural layer, the manufacturing layer, the service layer, and what we're now creating is the information layer in our economy. However, those jobs will not all be filled because we do not in Brazil have the skills, nor do we have the skills elsewhere in the world to satisfy that demand. And that is in essence globally a failure of our education system, as well as a failure of private business or governments to understand that they need to train for those skills. The competitive differentiation of Brazil going forward will be determined by how fast you accelerate those skills, as well as the ability to use and create other skills needed to make information technology central to the strategy of business. Because as we said, every budget will in the future be an IT budget. And so that's the summary. I'll pass over to Donald for operating.